Okay, so we're gonna watch our first match. I'm gonna tune into Sheridactyls versus Britzo. This should be a pretty good match. Both these players are really strong. And you'll get the first look at my new layouts for this tournament. So that should be fun. One of the things that I think is the most interesting that we have added is that I can now show everybody the drop patterns for the various characters. Let me pull up the Magician, so it should be updated now. So these players have both participated in a few of our tournaments here, and they're both pretty strong. And we'll see how it goes. I think it's in Britzo's favor. Not 100% certain, but that tends to be the case. One of the things we get a lot is, since there's, the community's still kind of small, we have a lot of players who face each other pretty much every event. I think these players have played a few times before. And we'll probably see more of that later as well. I tried to avoid putting too many people who are familiar with one another up against each other in the first round, the best I could with seeding. Got to make sure that everything remains fair. So a lot of our players who I am also familiar with received higher seeds this time only because I know what they're capable of. And I think next time, if we get a lot of these newer participants to come back, we'll be able to tell for sure and have a little bit more accurate seeding. So we'll see how my projections kind of play out over the course of the night. I saw that Britzo kind of made a mistake there with the greens. Right, hopefully these drop patterns will be helpful for our players who are kind of watching along at home, if this isn't something you kind of follow along with normally. Each character has a different place on the screen where they'll put pressure on you. And I'll try to display that on the panel there over in the center. So again, if you're new to our events, how the tournament structure works is tournament matches are first to 3. The first character is always Magician because they are, the first tarot card character. And when somebody loses, they get to pick the next character. So we're always going to play mirror matches to ensure that the characters remain fair. The tier list in Magical Drop is like really disparate. There's some really good characters and some really bad ones. We want to make sure that people aren't just forcing themselves to pick the best character every time, and we get a little bit of cool counter-picking strategy by doing this. One thing I wanted to comment on here for Sheridactyls is you see he's kind of stuck trying to clean out the middle of his screen, but if he can use those side columns, he's not going to be able to do it this time, but if he was able to use those side columns, he could dig a lot deeper into his screen and probably open up more space than he would by just focusing on the center. When you're trying to stay alive, it's kind of hard to look at the bigger picture that way, but it's something that you kind of have to think about, and when I play, I try to keep that in the back of my mind, that I'd rather lose trying to execute the strategy that I come in with than scramble and maybe cheese out a win, doing something that I don't think will be beneficial long-term for my playing. I have to update the drop pattern. So Death, you see, compared to the last one, they just move a little bit further to the edge of the screen. What I want for the next time, too, is we have the drop shapes, but there's also colors that are different between characters, like what color bubbles come down. And I don't have that information just yet, or at least ready to go to display on screen, but hopefully we'll be able to do that in the future. It seems like Sheridactyl's counterpick is working out thus far, though. I gotta check the chat. Okay, so I didn't see much of that match because I was trying to respond to some players in the chat, but yeah, it looks like Britzo has at least pulled one back this time. Yeah. So he has that green burst, and he's going to be able to use it right there. That's nice. Britzo, it looks like he already used his. Okay, so tied up going to the last round with this character. Alright, so Sheridactyl pulls that one out, and let's see whose Britzo's counter pick is. If I was Britzo, I would probably go with... Emperor's the same as Death. Okay, World is another strong character. I probably would have picked one of the mid-tier characters, like Judgment or Justice, and tried to race. We haven't really seen one of those yet. They've just been pushing each other off the board, but that's okay. Their own choice, they see who they're comfortable with. So you can kind of see I've updated the drop pattern on here. And all of the pressure for World and Empress, who's the same, will be coming down, you know, the side closest to your opponent. Using their burst a little early there. We'll see if, yeah, it looks like Britzo saved it a little bit to buy some time. You gotta be really conscious of when you're using like those crystal bubbles, because they can definitely, you know, bail you out in a pinch. And I think Sheridactyl's kind of converted his a little too early there. You also see with a lot of other characters that will push the screen all the way down. Yeah, he's going to use the green burst a little early there too. You can see Britzo's just sitting, saving it. It's in a really good spot there too. Going to push the board out for himself, like that. Yeah. All that green to go. He's going to make a big dent in his quota. Yeah, Sheridactyl's having a hard time kind of digging himself out here. Yeah, it's hard. Not much you can do when the board is that full. Okay, so we're going to hovering over High Priestess. So it looks like we're just going to be picking, you know, hitter after hitter here in terms of characters. High Priestess, pretty unique drop pattern. I think she doesn't share it with anybody. So, see how familiar they both are with it. And again, I know I've been commenting on it a lot here for Sheridactyls, so that was another pretty early burst on the yellows. Kind of want to save that. Especially if you have like a very fortunate position with it where you could just pick it up and drop it right away. Because then like when the board does get that full, you can use it and then use that time to bail yourself out. Looks like on the other side, having some trouble with the ice, but he's able to kind of clear it with that blue. That's good. This game might go to quota. Nice. And it looks like if that's the case, Sheridactyls is a little bit ahead. Hopefully he can just kind of keep this alive. Yeah, if he can get that green, it's going to clear all of it. That's good. That might be enough. He just needs one more. Oh, no. Please, break something. I think he got it. Yeah, he's got it. One thing I will mention, because you kind of hear that squeaking sound coming out of, I think it's Britzo's side. It's something that a lot of the South American players do, and that a lot of us are trying to learn to keep up. Is I saw somebody mentioned this in the Fightcade chat before too, how they're moving that fast. It's because if you hold a direction, right, like left or right, and then you mash the pickup button, you will just like move really fast and pick up pretty much everything that's on your way. So if you pick up like a yellow on one side of the screen and you just hold like the other direction and mash, you should move really rapidly to the other side of the screen while picking up other yellow bubbles that you pass. It's a really powerful technique. Takes a lot of getting used to, just because it's not particularly intuitive to start, and there's a lot of like misdrops you get when you're first doing it. But once you kind of master it, it's so handy, and it really helps ramp up your speed. Okay, Sheridactyls bringing it to a final round with High Priestess, his second counter pick. See if he can close this out and stay alive. Oh, there's a lot of indecision there. Do something. Got that blue. Okay. So Britzo is going to win that 3-1. And I think that will wrap it up for this one. I'm going to switch back to our bracket. And I will update that. I'm going to have to call some DQ as well. Oh, it looks like a couple of people have trickled in. We can start the next set of matches.